Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wrestling with the Paranormal. And I am your host, or one of them, the Enlightened One, Aaron.
And I'm here today, Craig the Gray, or is it Craig the Black?
Craig the Black.
Things change sometimes.
So we just finished watching the pay-per-view All Out. Just gonna grab my notes for the show here.
So tonight's a late night special for all the listeners out there.
Yeah, so we just finished watching All Out, and what a show! Oh my goodness, well worth the $40 for the pay-per-view. Wow, what a show!
And today's sponsor, Men in Blackberry Bubbly, the official
Bubbly?
drink of Men in Black.
Bubbly?
It's pronounced bubbly.
We got the AFW t-shirt here.
Mm-hmm.
And for sale today, on Friday, is Wrestling with the Paranormal t-shirt. And have you seen the shirt?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't
It's
it
a beautiful shirt. It's amazing.
Actually,
you got the skull. There's some secrets. There's secrets in the picture if you look at it.
Yeah, there is. But that shirt is getting rave reviews from all sorts of people. They're loving it. They love it more than the show.
It's an amazing shirt. I'm gonna get one, and it'll come in the mail, and we can wear it on the show.
Yeah, so make sure you get that by tomorrow to take advantage of the 20% off sale. If you don't, you're gonna pay full price. So,
wait, is that available to everybody?
Yeah, everyone. By tomorrow on Pro Wrestling Tees /F/Evan Wrestling. If you type in Labor Day as your code, you'll get 20% off on any of our shirts, especially that one.
I thought that I was getting a special deal, that you were giving me a special deal.
Oh, did you? For real?
I didn't realize everybody got. Now I don't feel as special.
Well, I don't have the access to give you any special deals.
That's okay. It's a great shirt. It's worth the money.
I got to do the same.
It's worth it. It's worth every penny. It's a beautiful shirt.
So today we are talking about Men in Black. So we're not talking about the Will Smith movie. We're not talking about the sequel, whatever the new one is.
The new one actually doesn't make any sense. Okay, we're not talking about the Men in Black movies, but just as a side note, Men in Black International doesn't make any sense because the Men in Black is a North American phenomenon. They've never been cited in Europe or any other country. So Men in Black International doesn't make any sense. It's a dumb idea for a movie, but we're not here to talk about the movies.
Well, I've heard that they have been seen other places, so that's up for debate.
I think we'll talk about that later. Okay. Yeah. Should we do a little overview? Who are the Men in Black?
Are you going to wear those sunglasses the whole time?
I can't actually see my notes, so I think the makeup girl, she did all this. She did me up with the costume. You know, she's a costume girl too. She does makeup and costumes.
She does.
All right, I'm going to take this off. I'm getting hot. Whew. But I got a black t-shirt underneath, so it all works. Okay, so overview. Who are the Men in Black?
This all started in Roswell. They weren't really seen until then, and they order people into silence after they've seen spaceships of some sorts or UFOs or something like that, and we'll go right into 1952 with Albert Bender. How about that?
Yep, I got that in my notes as well. So he actually started a flying saucer bureau of investigation, like a little club for people who've seen UFOs. It had a newsletter. It regularly had a newsletter came out. It had information.
They had 2,000 followers.
2,000 followers. So it's pretty decent for the 1952, right? I mean, this is pre-internet. Yeah. Lots of subscribers. But mysteriously in 1953, Albert K. Bender completely shuts it down, stops the newsletter mysteriously. Nobody knows why. The last issue of the newsletter, he had a very ominous message for the readers. We advise those who engage in saucer research to be cautious. Ooh.
So 10 years later, I said, well, first he starts getting all these headaches and stuff like that, and starts acting really strange. But 10 years later, he comes out and he explained why the three men in black appeared out of nowhere, and they told him that he needed to stop his work.
And this is the first recorded sighting of the men in black.
The second one, this one is creepy.
What do you got next? You got
I got Herbert Hopkins.
Okay, yeah, Herbert Hopkins is pretty creepy, yeah.
So he gets a phone call saying we're from the New Jersey UFO organization, and he's like, we'd like to talk to you about your experiences.
Because he was studying a UFO case.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
And so he's like, we'd like to come over and talk to you about it. And he's like, well, yeah, sure, well, come talk. And so he goes to turn on his light thinking they're going to be here in like 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And all of a sudden they're at the door as soon as the conversation's over. And he's like, whoa. And the funny thing about this guy is he's very, very pale. And he's got a black hat, black jacket, and very, very no movements at all, just lips moving. And they also said that he could feel like telepathic sort of energy going on.
Like the person was able to read his thoughts somehow from the way the person was reacting. Also, no emotions. The person didn't have any emotions.
So I'll just share one thing and I'll let you continue on with the story. So he noticed that his lips were bright red, and he thought that was strange. And then so he wiped his mouth and revealed that he had no lips. This was just makeup, and it was just pretty much two slits that were there. But you almost wonder if he did that on purpose to freak the shit out of him, right? Because he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, well, yeah, because especially the next thing that this visitor does, this man in black who came to visit Herbert, he asks him to take a copper coin out of his pocket. And that's another thing, like, how did he even know he had a copper coin in his pocket?
Yeah, right.
So Herbert takes the coin out of his pocket, and then the visitor's he's looking at the coin, and all of a sudden the coin starts changing color, and it changes from copper to silver, and then he says it gets kind of blurry, and then it disappeared. Right in front of him, it disappeared. And then the visitor warns him that he needs to destroy all the research he has on the UFOs or the UFO incident, or you're going to disappear just like that coin. So threatening him. That's a threat. Yeah,
it was quite. And then he begins to lose energy and almost as if this took a crap.
The visitor does. The visitor starts losing energy, yeah, and has to leave. Says he has to leave, and then while he's leaving, he's walking down the stairs, and apparently it looks like he's like stumbling or like it's getting harder for him to walk. And Herbert watches him walk down the stairs and start going down the street, and then all of a sudden there's a flash of light, like when the man's like a little ways down the street. And I mean, did he disappear? What happened? Herbert didn't know. It was just very mysterious, strange. That is a very creepy.
I would say, like, of all the stories, this is probably the creepiest one.
Yeah, there's Did you find any information on Stella Lansing? This is another one I found.
Is this the one from Niagara?
No, she's from the 60s as well, 1961. So she's actually a pretty famous UFO kind of witness, because she had numerous times where she saw these bright orbs in the sky. In 1961, she saw them. In 1965, she saw them, and she actually got some footage. In 1967, she was on a talk show that was doing a special on UFOs, and she actually had experts analyze the footage that she had taken. And when they analyzed it, they also found these strange sounds on the footage. The footage was like these two bright lights in the sky. And then the sounds that they picked up were like this weird language. It sounds like people talking in like a foreign language. So one of the specialists and a doctor go with her to one of the areas where she saw the lights. And when they're with her, they see the lights too. And the doctor even brought a camera and he took some footage. But there was a black car they didn't realize was with them in the area, and it was a black car, like other people describe in other Men in Black sightings. And the black car, like all of a sudden, like starts approaching them and then drives away. And then Lansing told them that she had seen this kind of car on numerous occasions when she had sightings. And she even asked one time she was witnessing something and she went up to the car to ask the person if they could see it too. And they said yes in like a very like no emotions, like a very like kind of monotonous way. They said yes, that they could, but then they didn't really engage with her. They were just kind of being really creepy and weird and like cold, which is another thing people describe these like encounters is like the people are very cold, the Men in Black. It's like almost like they're not human maybe, but they, you know, that could be conjecture. But yeah, so Stella Lansing, she was kind of like had like a numerous occasions of seeing this black car following her. So was it the Men in Black? Who knows?
Okay, so the most famous video footage is from here in Canada, Niagara Falls, and one of the workers at the hotel had seen some UFOs and was doing some research on some of the UFOs that's seen over the Niagara River. And I guess these characters, much like the ones from Hopkins, the guy who visited Hopkins, very similar looking. It shows these guys coming in and just freaking the crap out of everyone. And luckily, he had stayed home that day. But they went around and asked everyone else questions like that.
And people said that it was two Men in Black and that they looked like twins. They looked very similar. And there was reports that it looked like they were wearing wigs, which is also interesting because Herbert's original encounter, he also said that the man was completely bald and didn't even have eyebrows. So that's interesting.
Okay, so let's go back to I said earlier that started Roswell, but according to one of the videos that we watched, is that this was happening before in the Middle Ages. People were saying that this was happening in the Middle Ages. And
how are they describing them in the Middle Ages?
Wearing black cloaks.
Okay.
Instead of like black suits.
Yeah.
And they actually said that they believed that they were demonic at that time.
Right. But now people kind of think that they might be aliens.
Well, this goes back to my thing. It's like Roswell is the key to everything.
Right.
Without Roswell, like with the Middle Ages, is this just demonic thing? It's because like we have a lot of times we see in the car, we see these black-eyed children in the car with them as well. Have you looked at anything about black-eyed children spotting?
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, that was in the bedtime stories video.
So they're like, but they don't come out of car. They're just in the car.
No, they're just kind of like in the Men in Black's car.
Okay. Also, in the Middle Ages, were they in a black carriage, like or were they riding black horses?
About that, so they didn't say anything about that. But
very interesting.
So it's interesting. Yeah, a lot of people feel like this. They're very, very sinister. They're not coming in peace at all.
Well, and it's a common theme for them to want people to either stay silent about UFO sightings or to destroy evidence or research or footage, right? Like that's a common thing. So some people think it could be like a government agency, like maybe part of the United States military. Maybe it's like an agency that goes around and tries to stop people from talking.
I think Rex Hufflin. Did you get into him at all?
No, I don't. I didn't have notes on him.
Okay, so Rex Hufflin, he has one of the more famous pictures of a sort of a hat-like UFO, and so he thought it was originally a government. Well, this is in 1965, by the way, and so he thought it was an experimental flight thing, and so pretty much he had different people uh, wanting to see this, and the photo was published, and so he had different military people coming to talk to him, and some of them took the picture, but they always brought it back.
Mm-hmm.
And then um, I guess eventually the Men in Black came, and they said they were from NORAD, but they weren't from NORAD, and they didn't have any photos on their ID, and so they stole the pictures, the original pictures, and didn't give it back. So he phoned to find out why NORAD isn't giving back the pictures, and they're like, this wouldn't be a NORAD thing that we would take care of. And so the other thing is when they came, they were in a 1966 Chevy, and it was glowing.
Glowing how?
Just a radiation of glowing around the vehicle.
Whoa.
And so it's now 1993, and he's an old man, and he gets a phone call, and someone on the other end says, "Have you checked your mailbox lately?" And hung up. So this old guy goes out to his mailbox, and there's an envelope in there, and his pictures are being returned.
Wow. That's so weird.
Yeah.
How many years, like 40 years later or something? 30 years later?
Almost 40 years later.
That's insane. That's so weird.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's one of the classic Men in Black stories.
I've got another one here. Jack Smith. Which is an alias. It's not his real name.
Okay.
But he didn't want to use his real name. So he reported some photos actually to a couple of newspapers. This is in 2014 in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Now he got some photographs of the Men in Black, like these men that were following him, but he actually also had a long history of seeing them. When he was a child, he reported that a small hairless boy visited him, like a boy who had no hair, no eyebrows, and took him out into the woods. And this boy had this weird like flashlight like device. And he took him to the woods, and there was a giant like craft, and there was this other being that was like really big, and Jack Smith describes it kind of like a praying mantis almost. But then the boy hit him with the flashlight like device and knocked him unconscious. Now this was a long time ago.
Like he used the light to knock him unconscious or whack him on the head?
No, it was like a beam that shot out, and then it made him unconscious. He said when it hit him, it like made him unconscious. So that happened to him when he was younger, and then he reports that he's continually seen these Men in Black following him, or like he sees a black car. And in 2014, he takes footage of them and photos. But what's strange is that he sends the footage and photos to one of his friends, and then his friend said she'll keep the footage and photos on her phone from him. I guess he got paranoid and maybe he erased it from his own phone. But then her phone mysteriously erased the footage and the photos.
Wow.
Yeah. And she said that she didn't do it, that like somehow somebody else remotely erased things from her phone. He had a couple of photos survive, and that's what he put into this newspaper. You can actually find them online. There's a newspaper article in 2014 called something Men in Black, like who are the Men in Black, and it's got pictures of them. And the two people, it's two Men in Black, and again, they look very similar, like twins. He also described them as wearing fedoras, the black suits. They were also moving very like robotic like, and they didn't have any emotions. And he watched them for a while, and it seemed like they were communicating without talking, because they didn't really talk to each other, but it looked like they were communicating, and that's what he reported. So yeah, that was another encounter. So like some photos do survive too. If you look up photos of Men in Black online. Like you could find some photographs of them, and like you mentioned, the footage from Ontario, Niagara Falls, right? So it doesn't seem like if they're trying to erase footage of themselves or footage of UFOs, they're not entirely successful.
And I think that's on purpose.
Oh, okay. Like publicity.
Well, they're actually there to reaffirm the fact aliens exist, not to deny it.
So it's a kind of almost like reverse psychology. They tell people.
Yes, it is a trip to reaffirm that aliens are real rather than not real.
Interesting. Now, do you think that it's
because like this, all this stuff is very paranormal. If you're gonna try to convince somebody that aliens aren't real, you're gonna do all these weird things. You're gonna just be like, hey, speak reasonable. You're not gonna do these weird paranormal things. You're freaking people out with this stuff.
Yeah, making coins disappear.
Yeah, you're like
telekinesis, erasing photos.
You're only really confirming the truth of the aliens are real. So, but I think they want people to believe the aliens are real. So,
do you think it's a government agency in working with aliens, or do you think that the Men in Black are actually like aliens themselves? I even have a third theory that they could actually be robots, like really convincing.
There's no way they're robots. That one's
what?
Out,
How do you know they're not robots?
That was out. Come on, there's no datas. Star Trek.
But they're bald. They don't have hair. Maybe it's really difficult to create hair on a robot.
Maybe it's a very, very advanced android. So,
yeah, an android. Because they don't have emotions, right? They get the guy who got tired, right? In the first report, he got tired, almost like he was losing power, right? And maybe the Flash, maybe it actually self-destructed. Maybe it actually just went and just evaporated.
And I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but anytime we're going to talk about aliens, I'm going to say the same thing. I just like I did a few way back. I really believe that aliens do not exist.
As in, they're not from another planet.
Aliens aren't real.
Okay.
Aliens are in fact demons.
Right.
And
I knew you were going to say that. We should just change your nickname to the Enlightened One. Aliens are actually demons. That should just be your nickname.
Well,
No, I know what you mean. But yeah. I mean, here's the thing though, is when people say aliens, like we all just imagine things from other planets, but really it's just something we don't understand. So you could be right?
Well, like going back to the Middle Ages, they were trying to scare people, and now they got an agenda to push the UFOs and everything. So I want to tell another story here. Raven Mandel, this is from 2008. She saw some men in black coming out of an apartment across the street from her. And so she'd been doing some UFO research and stuff like that. And so they were getting in, and they kind of looked at her, and she looked at them, and it's kind of like this dark sort of stare. And they got in their black Lincoln. And so she quickly ran over because she wanted to see the license plate. And they quickly drove away before she could see anything. And she felt like this was meant to be on purpose. And so strange things started to happen in her house. She started having poltergeist things started happening. She felt like a dark cloud start to come around her life. She would see handprints in the mirror after a shower, like big handprints, like larger than man handprints. And her kids would start to have bruises on them. And so she would go for walks, and the Cadillac would stalk her and just kind of follow her around. So this is kind of my case. It's like, why is all of a sudden, like, whenever it's mixing with paranormal and something that's not supposed to be paranormal, it kind of makes me question what's going on. Like, it's the difference between a ghost and a demon, right? You're not going to see much like um, uh, darkness coming from a ghost as you're going to see, like, when you see a demon, they're really dark.
Well, and yeah, you bring up a good point that people, when you're having an encounter with something and you're not really thinking clearly, like, you don't really know exactly what it is. So and that's the other thing we got to understand about all these things, is that a lot of stuff gets reported from people who had an encounter where they were probably scared, maybe confused, right? Maybe even experiencing some shock. So what they report is obviously fairly subjective. Something happened to them, but yeah, I mean, whether it's a ghost,
Yeah,
or
exactly. Like, all
you know what I
these
mean?
stories we're hearing are just people's accounts. They're not the gospel. They're
Right.
not. They're not absolutely true. This is just their account.
But I like my take on it, and I think it's especially true for the Men in Black, because it is something that could be so, like, oh, it could just be people in black suits. But I like to take it at face value. If somebody says that an encounter was really strange, like someone was acting really strange, like robotic, or like the first account of Herbert's account where he wipes off the lipstick and he doesn't even have lips under his mouth. Like, those kind of details seem pretty real to me, and I don't know, like, why people would really make them up. So I take interest in stories like that, right? Because it kind of like
And it was almost like
seems more real.
it's almost like he was running out of energy to be in that form as well.
Totally. Yeah.
Like, he had to muster up enough energy to be in that form. That it was a paranormal sort of thing and not a spaceman.
Right. It's not like a technology thing, or like that's what you're thinking. It's not like advanced technology. You're thinking
Yeah,
more like it's a spiritual kind of, or like something from a different realm or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, uh, uh, a lot of these things, it's the when you measure for ghost readings or whatever. I forget those are called. When you come in and the electricity is like going crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of these alien places that people are visiting, the 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 electrical sort of thing is going the same as it would as if there was a ghost there,
Right.
which I also find strange.
Maybe it's like it could all be one thing. I know you're gonna say demons. We could say that, but it could all, a lot of paranormal stuff could all be like the same kind of phenomenon, right? Like ghosts and demons and aliens,
Well, you
and
got to realize that
and all the cryptids even.
you got to realize that I'm coming from a Christian perspective.
Right.
So there's God and there's the devil, and so like, you can make fun of me or whatever. Oh, big surprise! You saying, like, that's, it's just my worldview, and for me, there's no greater thing for the devil to do than to fool everybody with some other sort of you know aliens, or like, if there's aliens, well, is there a God still? Like, is there, it question puts things into question.
Right. It's a form of like subterfuge. Like it's like a tactic, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's how I
yeah.
view it.
Yeah. And I get that. That comes through when you explain it that way. And I do think that, like, when you look at something like the Men in Black, like, they're not explaining who they are. They're not showing ID. They're not saying they're from this government agency or the other. So they're clearly sowing like doubt in people's minds, right? Like, one of
Yeah.
the videos, I think it was that Scary Stories video. He started the video talking about how people don't really trust the government anymore, and a lot of that started around Roswell, right? Because there was this thing that happened that didn't get explained, and then they found out people were lying, and then people get confused. So now people don't trust their government. And, like, I don't know. I mean, the government obviously makes mistakes anyway, but what I'm trying to say is that like I think I'm on the same page with you that whatever these people are doing, like the Men in Black, they're definitely kind of like playing a trick on people and kind of like messing with people's minds and making people more confused, right? And it's like we understand reality less because of what they do, right? It doesn't help us understand things more, and it doesn't seem like they're being very helpful, right? Every report of it
No,
is
like it's almost like they're there to say don't do this, but now you're the story. The fact that you came to visit me, now you're the story instead of the spacecraft. So like,
that's interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's just more of the same, or a deeper kind of story, right?
Okay, I've got a question for you. What would you do if you saw Men in Black and they started talking to you?
Oh, um, I would probably start praying.
Okay, that's a good answer.
See how they react to that.
Now, I have maybe this story doesn't make any sense, but I do have a real life story of something that happened to me that was really strange of encountering somebody on the street. Um, Now the guy didn't look like a Men in Black guy. He had like a big beard, but he was wearing dark clothing and he seemed to come out of nowhere. I was walking down the street. This is way back when I lived in Winnipeg, probably around 2004. So I was a bit younger. And I was walking down the street and I kind of noticed like it seemed really dark. And I was like, isn't there supposed to be streetlights? And I looked up and the streetlight above me was off. And this guy like appeared out of nowhere. Like all of a sudden, this guy was like right in front of me. But I mean, it was dark. But all of a sudden, this guy was in front of me with this beard, and he was like, "Isn't that strange?" Like that's what he said to me, and I'm like, "What?" And then he pointed up, and he's like, "All of the street lights are out, only." For the distance of the cemetery, because we were actually walking and there was a cemetery, and and he was right. I looked, and all the street lights were out, but it was only the length of the cemetery, and then they turned on. The street lights were working normally everywhere else. And I was like, whoa, that is weird. And he just like looked at me and he just like had these really intense eyes and he was like, yes, it's very strange. And then he like walked away and I was just like, and I stood there like waiting for him to walk away because I didn't want to walk with him because he was really creeping me out. And I was like, this is really weird. And then I crossed the street to the other side of the street where the street lights were working.
You got to cross the street.
You got to cross the street. I had no idea what was going on. I just got away from that cemetery and I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm walking away from this. And it was a really strange
it's amazing
occurrence.
that you waited this long to tell that story.
Well, it seemed to fit now.
Yeah, it could have fit in a ghost episode too, but
it didn't seem like he didn't seem like a ghost. He seemed like a person, but he did seem to come out of nowhere, and he was really creepy and weird. And like people don't usually just talk to you like in public, you know, especially not at night, and just point out something that's intense. And he pointed out something that was really strange, and just like pointed it out to me. And I'm like, yeah,
were you already looking up?
I was looking up because I was just like, man, like I'm walking and I'm like, why is it so dark? It was like I was walking and it wasn't like a light went off.
It's almost like he's reading your thoughts.
It was like he was reading my thoughts. See, and it wasn't like I wasn't walking and all of a sudden the lights went out. I was walking and then all of a sudden it occurred to me, wait, it's darker than it's supposed to be. And that's when I looked up. I'm like, wait, the street light's out. And then that's when he appeared, right? So it was just this really weird thing that happened to me. And it's funny, like you say that I didn't mention this earlier, but I actually only remembered it watching the Men in Black stories. I was like, wait a minute, and I remembered this thing that happened to me.
Was he a heavy set man, or was he?
He was older, and he was taller than me. He actually was pretty tall, but he was skinny. He was skinnier. He wasn't like a heavy guy. But the beard looked real. Like it looked like a real beard. It didn't look like he had a fake beard on or anything. But he was wearing dark clothing, like he was all dark clothing. I don't know.
Was there forest around? Like where did he come out of?
It was in the city. It was like in a residential area, so there was nobody else and there was no traffic. It wasn't a busy street.
Yeah, so he just like appeared from nowhere.
Yeah, kind of freaked me out. It was weird. But yeah, I was just like I didn't know how to respond, and I just crossed the street and started walking away from the whole situation. Was it a Men in Black? Who knows?
Well, it could have been.
Could have been.
And as long as he didn't threaten you with your coin and making it disappear.
Well, I wonder, like, did he have something to do with the lights being off? You know, was something happening in the cemetery? I don't know. It was just really weird. So,
I have some other stories, but they don't really relate, so I'm not going to share them.
Well, I have one last Men in Black story from Ellen Greenfield. Did you see this one? 1969.
No.
So Ellen Greenfield is a UFO investigator, and she's actually at a UFO convention in Charlottesville, Virginia, and she's eating. They're having dinner like in between the talks, like her and her friends are having dinner, and they're talking about UFO stuff. And then they noticed there was a man all in black with a black fedora like sitting behind them, and it looked like he was listening. So she gets up, but when she gets up, he gets up and he starts walking out. So she follows him and actually follows him out into the street and asks him who he is. And he had the fedora and the black, suit jacket and all that. And she took his picture, and the man told her that he was a men in black in training, and then he walked away.
So he actually said, "I'm a man in black."
And yeah, he actually said he's a man in black, which makes me think it was a prank because it's a UFO convention, and the men in black are already kind of a urban legend. So, but the picture, you can see the picture online. I mean, the guy looks like man in black, like what people report seeing.
Yeah, you have to kind of wonder about that.
Yeah, like saying it like I'm a man in black in training. It's like weird.
Yeah, it's a little suspect on that one.
But pretty weird prank to do. Just like wear black to the UFO convention, just dress as a man in black and creep out some ladies. It's kind of weird.
So what do you think that the it's at the heart of what they're trying to do? Is it just deception? Is it, in your opinion, my opinion, do you think that they're trying to point to aliens, or what do you think they're trying to do?
That's a good question. I kind of agree with you on the like sowing confusion and just it is like they're adding to the UFO like kind of urban legend like quality of people reporting things, because it's like not only do you have the UFO sighting, now you also have the Men in Black sighting, so it like makes it more of an occurrence, right, of like a thing. One thing that seems strange with some of the stories is like, I guess whatever these beings are, they must have a lot of ways of finding information and figuring out who's talking about UFOs so that they can go find them and do this, right? Because I wondered about that, like the guy
in Canada, how are they finding out about this?
Like the guy in Canada said that he was the hotel worker, that he saw the UFO and then he was only telling his friends. He didn't report it to a newspaper or anything. And then the Men in Black show up. It's like, that's kind of weird. How do they know that people are talking about UFOs?
Wait, does it say the time? Well, that is 2012, so it could have been on a telephone call.
Yeah, somebody might have texted it or put it on so wait a minute. But you're about to title this episode Men in Black. What if Men in Black show up?
What? Oh, for this, yeah. Don't come around here, please.
Men in Black, we're telling you right now, we did a show on you, but we're not interested in meeting you.
No, if you want us not to do this anymore, just tell us in a text or something. We'll probably pass on the UFO episodes if you ask us.
What? I worked hard on this episode.
Listen,
I put sunglasses on.
I'm not having Men in Black coming to visit me.
I don't usually wear sunglasses, okay? This was actually a lot of work for me. And I actually had to find these.
And you're wearing the wrong hat. You're not wearing your gray hat.
Well, because it's black. It's a black
hat. Picked the black today.
You don't get it. You didn't get the joke at the start? I did a whole thing.
Very, very nice.
I try so hard. Yeah.
So are we pretty much open and shut on this one? Like, obviously we believe it. They're real. Like, I'm believing that it happened, right? It's
there's footage. You can watch the footage online.
Well, part of me feels like there's a lot of some crazies in there too. Sorry, not crazy.
Do you think it's all people playing pranks?
I think there's some mental health going on there too.
Well, like, do you think someone has to have some kind of condition even just to play a prank? Or you think that somebody might actually have psychosis where they think they're a man in black, so they're just behaving that way. And they
No,
go
what
find
I'm
people
saying
who,
is, I'm saying that obviously, yes, Men in Black have visited people and done all some of the stuff.
oh, you
But I
mean the
think
people reporting it could
some of
be.
the people reporting it are having.
Wow, you could wonder that about all paranormal activity.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I'm not saying that it's not happening, but I think, like, you know, there's some people that are just kind of.
You know what's even weirder than having a paranormal encounter? Doing a
What?
podcast about paranormal encounters.
Well, that's true. But one show we're never going to do is on the lizard people.
Yeah, so if anybody's waiting for us to do that show, we both agreed that we're not interested in doing the lizard people show.
Well, yeah, it's just hokey and dumb. Like,
well, isn't it just mostly based on one person, David Icke?
Yeah, and
Like,
he's just making money, and yeah, so
because other people, I mean, maybe other people report it, but yeah.
So yeah, we're not doing a lizard people.
It for us to do a show on something, it has to be widely reported and for a long period of time. You know, like I like the cryptids, and most of the things we talk about are like it's been happening for 50, 60 years, you know.
Yeah, we're usually going back to the 40s or the 50s and stuff like that.
Because David Icke just came up with that theory and claims.
Well, yeah, that's just a money maker. So
yeah,
to draw people in and sell his book and stuff like that.
But Men in Black goes back all the way to the Middle Ages.
And they even have like 3 or 4 movies out of it. So yeah, you know it's real. So yeah, thanks for what this has been a late night sort of episode because of the wrestling show. And yeah, it's just make sure you visit our t-shirt store, Pro Wrestling Tees /FN Wrestling. Visit our website, fnwrestling.com, and follow us on Twitter at allfnwrestling. And I think that wraps it up for us here today.
Oh, a couple things. All of the viewers watching on YouTube, you've got to look really closely at the screen right now. Okay. Now they forgot everything that we said, so that's good.
What?
The only thing you need to remember, everybody,
to Wrestling with the Paranormal today.
No, Aaron, we already did this. We already did the show. We already did the show.
Oh, what happened?
You forgot everything. It's okay. The only thing you need to remember, do you got your finger on the button there? The only thing you need to remember is keep on wrestling with the paranormal.